Now in the post API, in this component, we have done all the API integration, get, post, put, delete, right? Now we can write the API call function into component also. This is how we do. But this is normally what we should not write our API call function into our component, because component we should only use for writing some logic, data binding and everything. It should not do some heavy work. Okay. What I'm saying, your component should be lightweight. It should have your logic processing and something data binding and everything like that same thing it should have. It should not do the heavy work. Okay. So these functions, the API call function we are making from component, instead of doing this over here, we have to move this into our service. Or let's say another scenario. Let's say this, you are working on a bank loan application, and this get all user application, get all user API call, you are means data from this API you are going to need around 4 to 5 components. Okay, data from this API you are going to need in 4 to 5 components. So this API call, URL and everything, you have to write it again and again, everything in the 5 components. Correct? Okay. So instead of writing this code again and again in all the 5 components, you can move this into a common place, that is services. Okay. Now let's create a service. So in app folder, I will create a folder, services. Now again, like in Angular, everything we create by Angular CLI only, nothing we create manually, apart from your model file, and that also we can create. Fine. So ng generate service. Let's say user, or let's say bank service I'm creating. Okay. Ng generate S for service. Okay. And the name of the service is bank. Enter. This will create your service. So service.spec.ts testing and the service.ts. So this is how your service looks. Okay. Above the service, you can see what do we have, @injectable. If you see the component class, above the component class, what do we have, @component. In service, we have @injectable. So this some small piece of code you see above the classes now, these are called decorator. Okay, decorators. Once our all basic topics are done, then I will explain decorator properly. Okay. Or now, like we have just component and the services. So two decorator we have seen, component decorator, and this is your service decorator. Once we create our custom directive, custom pipe, there you will be able to see other decorators also. Fine. Now this is your service. So first of all, just what do we use service for? API call function, some utility function. It can be anything. Let's say you want to filter something from array, you want to you want to do the addition of the two number, everything. Okay. Reusable logic means something logic is there which you are going to use in one component, and then that same logic you are going to use in another component also. So instead of writing that logic again and again in every component, you move that function, you move that logic, put it into function and move it to the service. Okay. So main use of service is like reusability. We increase our reusability because of the service. And what do we store in, what do we write in service? API call function, our utility function. Again, we create subject and behavior subject. It will come again. So that's when I'm writing. So these are the things we do in services. We can create normal variable also to store data. Guys, be on mute na. Tripad, to store data which we want to share with all component. That also we can store in into service. Let's say you have some data that you want to share across all the component. That also you can store in the service by creating normal variable. It's a class, right? See, it's a class. Component was also a class. So if it's a class, we can create variable over here also. Okay. Now, I will start with very basic first. Let's say you have a function just to add two number. Add two number. It has two parameter num1, data type number, comma num2, data type number. Why I'm taking this example? Because if we just saw the API call, now most of you will answer like, why do we you need service to write the API call? It's not only right for writing for API call function. Reusable thing, whatever reusable code you have, instead of writing it again and again in the component, you move that code into your service. Okay. Now here we will return num1 plus num2. Okay. Now in my service, I have created a function which has two parameter, which is going to return the sum of it. Now, let's say in post record, I need to use the service. That function I need to use, but that function is inside my service. So I need to create instance of this service into my this component. Just like we have done for HTTP client, na, similar to that. Bank SRV is equal to again inject bank service. Okay. So we created instance of our bank service. Now in ng on init, I'm creating a local variable constant result is equal to this dot bank service dot c. In bank service currently we just have one function, so that function it is suggesting. What this function need? Two parameter num1 and num2. 30, 23, comma 45. Okay. Let's add a debugger over here also and before also and over here also. Same thing I will do in reactive form also. Here also I want to do the addition. So what is that? Bank service is equal to inject constant add is equal to this dot bank service dot add to number. Let's say 12 comma 12. Let's add a debugger. See now same function I'm using in two component. Logic is very simple. Obviously, instead of writing this over here, you can write it over here also. But again, it will be repeated out code. But instead of that, imagine a function which is processing your array, filtering something, doing some operation. So instead of writing that code in your component, you can move that code over here. Okay. Now see, we are doing it on the onload, so we need to debug. Why everywhere debugger it is there? Okay. So see, currently we are in the post component engine. Once I execute this line, it will go to your service. See, it came to service along with whatever the parameter you passed. See, now it is returning some value. And that value you get it over here. Understood? So we called add to number function from our service by passing this parameter. Once this line executes, it will go to the service, it will perform its operation. Then whatever the result we are sending it back, that we will get it over here. Same thing we will do in our reactive also. If I navigate over here, see now, while calling, we are passing 12, 12. It will go to the service. See, from reactive form, it will go to the service. We got the parameter. It will do the addition and it will send the result back. See, understood? This is how we create a service function. Very basic one we have created. Clear all?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so if we talk about a API call, now let's say this user API data, we are going to need it over here also. And let's say in another component here also. See, currently this is getting repeated. Here also we have same API call. And here also we have same API call. So this code is repeated,
Yes.
right? So instead of writing this API call function over in both the component, we can move this API call function code into our service. Okay. So To write the API call, what's the first thing we have to do? Let's say in service, I told you we need to write the API call function. What we have to do first thing,
HTTP
Create the
client.
right? We
instance.
need to inject HTTP client. So in newer version, we inject service by using this inject. But previously, what we used to do in constructor, we used to create an object. So private HTTP colon HTTP client. This is how we used to create in the older version. Private HTTP client. This is equivalent to this. Okay. This is what we called as dependency injection. Registering your dependency means whatever the object you are going to need in this particular class, you used to register over here like that.
Sir,
Okay.
if we inject the HTTP client, it is also okay, right?
Yeah.
In
Everything,
service.
anything is
Okay.
fine. Okay.
Both things are same.
Yeah. So we injected HTTP client. Let's say first API call function, that is get all user. Now, so service doesn't have a UI, right? It will only hold the logic. Service doesn't have UI. Only component has the UI in Angular, means template. Okay. So from this function, you are going to make the API call, and whatever the response you get, that you have to return it back to your component. So here you will write return. Then your API call logic. So this dot HTTP dot get API call, and here you need to pass the URL. So this was your URL. Okay. But here you don't have to subscribe. Subscribe you will do in your component only. That's it. This is your API call function.
Then how do we get data if we don't subscribe?
In
It will not.
component, we will subscribe. This function, we will subscribe into component. So ultimately, if
But
instead of writing it over here, if you write it over here, or you subscribe into your component to this function, one and the same thing. Ultimately, we
but
have to
like,
subscribe.
okay, but when we are using this same API call in multiple components, instead of like subscribing in different all components, we can subscribe it
But
here and use the
you,
data.
no, don't consider like that. Again, it will be like your normal function, right?
Mhm.
You once your API call data, once you get your API call data, as soon as you have to cache the data into your component back. If you let's say you subscribe over here,
Mhm.
okay, and let's say you created some variable constant data result dot data, and you are saying return data, right?
Yes.
And this call you make it over here, but this is not a normal function. This was your normal function, so you can directly return it.
Okay.
TypeScript doesn't wait for any execution, right? If you write this line over here like this, let's say,
It will fetch the data.
no, it won't fetch. If you write like this now, it won't store anything over here because it won't wait now. JavaScript doesn't wait. It will execute line by line, right?
Right.
So API call is going to take some time.
Yes.
So by the look of it, we are returning it over here. So you will understand, you will think like once we get the data, it will return. But no, it won't wait. It doesn't wait over here. It will go to the next line. So here we will have a promise object only, observable object only, no data. That's why here we don't subscribe. You should get the data over here, right? In your component. So that's why we subscribe over here. Either you write subscribe over here or you move this code into a function and subscribe to that function. Basically same thing. You are subscribing. Okay. So in
We
your,
can make an async call, right? If it doesn't work.
yeah, async call you write. That is also there. Okay.
Okay.
Again, you need to make this async function. You need to create one more function with async, and there you will write the await.
Okay.
Okay.
my question is like reduce the redundancy, like instead of multiple subscriptions, it will hit the API, like if you use it 10 times, it will hit for 10 times, right? So
Yes.
instead of,
No,
can't we
instead
like,
of that, we create a variable in our service and subject variable, and there we store it. So wherever you need it, you read it from that subject instead of actually making the API call again and again. Okay.
okay,
We will see that. Don't worry.
okay,
Fine. So this is your normal API call function in your service. Now, this function, you need to call it into your component. So let's say we have this API call function. Now I'm commenting this. Let's create another function. Now here this dot your bank service dot get all user. Okay. Now let me just uncomment this. If I hover on the gate, what the gate function was returning? What's the return type of get function? See, I'm hovering on get. What's the return type of get function?
object,
Observable. No,
Okay.
here. Observable. Okay.
okay,
So if something is returning observable, what we can do? We can subscribe to it. Okay. If something is returning observable type of data, we can subscribe to it. Get function is returning observable type of data, so we are able to subscribe it. Just like same thing. What type of data this function is returning?
observable,
Why
Observe.
observable? Because here we are
because it
returning
is
get only. So the return type of get is observable. So this is going to return observable type of data. So if this function is returning observable type of data, we can subscribe to it. See, dot subscribe is coming. But let's say if I remove this return, it's your normal method. Now it's
it
not
will,
returning anything. So now that subscribe won't come. See, understood? Okay.
Yes.
Chetan,
Hmm.
like observable is like a data type or something else.
Yeah, you can say for now observable is like a data type. We use it
Data
for
type.
async programming. For now, you can go with data type. Okay. Obviously, it's a data type also. Okay. So now observable is coming. Now we can subscribe to it. Okay. Now, whatever the response you get, that you will store it over here. Now, it looks like similar code, right? But instead of keeping that API URL and everything over here, we have moved that to our service. Okay. Let's add a debugger over here. Over here also. And same thing I have to do in reactive form also. Here also we had the same function. This dot bank service dot get all user dot subscribe. Okay. Let's have debugger over here also and over here also and here also. See the execution now. Okay. If I go to the post API, now where I am in the post record component before my API call function in get user I am. Once this line execute, it will go to the service. See, it came over here. From here, actually API call will hit. And once the API call response came, it will return the observable data. And there in the component, we are subscribing to it. See, component subscribe got executed and we got the data. Go to the reactive form. See, understood? So instead of writing that API call function, API call URL and everything into your component, now you have moved that API call function into your service. Now you can reuse it wherever you need in your component. And wherever you need to trigger your get all user API call function, you can just create an instance of bank service and use this function and subscribe to the data. Okay. Similarly, for save user also, this function. Okay. Now, let's say I want to create a post API call, save user. When we say return, whenever you are writing the API call function, now it should always return. Without return, API call function should not be there. Okay. This dot HTTP dot post. How many parameter post API need? Post API function. How many parameter do we have?
parameters, sir.
Two, URL and the object.
Object.
What data you want to insert, right? What's the use of post API? To create new record. So what new record you have to create? So that you need to send. So URL, this is our URL. An object. Now here we don't have the object. So from where we will get the object? Right? To the post API, we need to pass the URL and the object. URL we got, but for object, from where we will get the object? In the service, we don't have object, right? So while calling this function from your component.ts, you will pass the object. So that object, you will get it over here. Okay. And this object, you will pass it over here. This is your post API call, which is with the parameter. So you are making the post API call, whatever the object you get. Now, when you want to execute that into your component, we comment this dot bank service dot. Now we have to call this function. See, when as soon as we are adding function, it is suggesting over here also. This function needs an object. So this is your object. This you will pass it over here. Then dot subscribe as it is. Or whatever the code we had inside subscribe, that same code will go over here. Okay. Let's add a debugger. Let's add a debugger over here also. Okay, let's say something data I'm adding. Now once I click on save user, okay, I'm in the component save function. I got the data. Now this data I'm going to pass to my API call function. See, here I'm passing the data. Continue. It will go over here in the service. Whatever the data we passed, that we got it over here, and this we are passing with the API call. Once API call is success, we will get the return max 10 user. API send the warning. Understood? Clear? So whatever you were writing in your component, we can write your API call function into your component also. But you should not write it over there. You have to move your API call function into your service. That's the right place of writing API call function. So I talked about reusability. Now let's say if you don't have the service and in every component you have this get API call function, right? Everywhere you have the URL. Let's say 5 components are there where you are using this get all user API call. Let's say API team changed the URL. Instead of bank loan, now it is loan processing. So in all the 5 components, you have to change your URL. All the component you need to test it once. QA has to test it. If you have written the test case, that test cases has to be updated. So many work is there. If your the same piece of code is getting repeated in all 5 components. But let's say if you have service, now only single place you have to change. This is the reusability. Clear or no?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the first, what do we say, advantage of your service. You get to create your reusable code. You achieve the reusability. Instead of writing that same piece of code again and again in every component, you move that code into your component and you achieve the reusability. Clear? Understood or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So service is not only for the API call function. We can create our normal function also. It can be to filter arrays with condition, to process something, anything it can be. The right word will be utility function. This is your utility function. Means a function which is going to perform some particular operation. Okay. You can create a variable also over here. Let's say logged username. Okay. And this variable value, you can assign it from your component also. We will see that properly, but I'm just saying, because this is also your class. Here you create a variable, na? Just like that, here also you can create variable in service also. Okay. Clear, everyone?
Yes.
So this is basic of the service. So with the service, our basic topics are completed. Okay. All the basic topics are done. Very straightforward, very easy. I won't say easy, but at least basic topics are done. Now, from now, all advanced topics will start. Everything is tricky. Okay. You need to think properly why we need to do it, why, where, what are the scenarios where we should use it. I will tell also, but you have to also think. Then only you will be able to understand the remaining topic. Otherwise, it will be hard. Okay.
Sir,
Clear
which topic, which is advanced topic?
all the topics now. This is just basic we have completed. Auth guard, interceptor, input output, subject, behavior, so many are there. No? Okay.
Means like we will use the basics in advanced topics, or they are completely
Yeah.
different.
No, this only we will use, but with a combination of something else.
Okay.
Now everything, whatever till we have seen, like it was single topic. Somewhere we were using combination of 2 topic, 3 topic, but now it will be new topic along with all the topic we have seen till now. Okay. So if you have not understood all this till now, remaining topic will be very hard for you. Okay. So make sure like if you have not done the practice, start it now at least. Otherwise, all we are doing will be a waste of time. Okay. Now, so now these were like basic topics. So I can create a different component. I can explain that topic within that component also. But now whatever the topic we have, it needs proper scenario. I cannot explain it directly without any scenario. Okay. So now I'm starting the first project because our basic with the whatever the knowledge you have right now, you can work on the project. API call is the main thing and forms are the main thing. So now you can work on the your project also. Okay. You won't, that project will be basic only. You won't be using any advanced concept, but you can complete the project. Okay. In the first company when I worked, when I started Angular, it was Angular 2 only. So when I completed that Angular, when we completed that project, I didn't know the service also. Writing API call into component only, I have completed that project, the first version, because there was no time to explore what Angular has. I used to know Angular JS. So by getting that knowledge, we completed the project. So at that time, I didn't know that input output services we can create. I was not able to understand that also. but I completed the project without using that advanced things also. Okay. So whatever you know till now, with that also you can complete the project. Okay. Now, today I will explain one more topic. Okay. Now you remember that competition API were there. That. Okay. So this was the project, employee onboarding system. So now I won't be explaining this project. I have a video for it. You can go through it. For now, I will complete. I will create a new project. This project I will complete everything. Okay. The next project you guys have to do. If I complete both the project myself, na, you won't understand anything. It will be like pravachan only. You are just listening. Okay. This project I will complete in front of you by using all the advanced topic because I need a scenario. I cannot explain all those topic within just normal project. I need a project only. Then only I can explain all those concept properly. Okay. So this is the first project which I am going to complete along with the explanation of all that topic. Second project you have to start. Okay. After let's say 1 week, 1 week is done now, then we will start the next project that you will parallelly do. Everyone individually has to do. Okay. After that, if you need, we will start one more project, but that will be as a group. Again, very few people do that. So whoever is interested, we will start one more project also. So that will be third project. Okay. Now, so this is the project we are going to start, employee onboarding system. Now, if we talk about, let's say, employee app or employee management app, does employee or anything, does any project need login page?
Yes.
Yes.
Can there be project without login page?
Yes, there can be like normal
Right? Website can be there, no? Without login.
sites. Yeah.
Let's say even Indian Railway website. Without login also you can search train and everything. Yeah, book you cannot do, but without login you can do most of the thing apart from booking,
Yes.
right? Start. What was what project? So here I'm creating new project now. Just a minute. So NG new. Now my project name. Okay. It's an employee onboarding application. So employee. Okay. This is my project name I'm giving. Employee onboarding app. Enter.
Should we do the same like parallelly? Not now,
You
like
can also do the parallelly. See,
okay.
whatever the topic I'm explaining, you can do parallelly. You can also create your project and start doing it. Okay. We are going with the CSS, server-side rendering. No, it will create my project. Okay. I won't let it install. I will reuse my node module folder. Just a minute. I'm just creating a shortcut of my another node module. I cannot have so many node module in my project. New window. Now I want to create, open the project which we have created. Open folder. D Angular 19 employee onboarding app. Okay, this is my project. Okay. Now, anyone have gone through? Let's say these are the various functionality we have. Okay. So I won't be again explaining right now. First, you go through the video. You will understand how many module and what functionality we have to complete. So first, But today I'm going to explain the login page. Okay. Now, this is the project which is going to be used by HR and the employee. So it's a private project. Limited people are only going to use it.
Yes.
Correct? It's not going like everyone. Obviously, let's say if it's a real project, we will host it somewhere, but not everyone will be able to use it. Na? The project, only that particular company's HR and the employee will be using it, right? So it's a private project. So whenever we have a project which is only limited for particular users only, so by default, if we hit any, by default, when we access the application, by default, we get the login page only. Okay. We cannot see anything, just the login page will be visible. Once we do the login, then remaining thing you can see. This is how the private project will work. By default, we will only show the login page. Okay. Now, so when we have to by default show just the login page, by default our app component is the parent component, right? This will be loaded out all the time. So now over here, I will create a pages folder. Now in pages folder, whenever we have to implement the login page functionality, and by default your only login page should be visible. So this will be your parent component. But after that, once user login, after that you will show that navigation and everything. So that part, that navigation and everything, and the after login, whatever the component you are going to access, for to display that, you need one more component, which will act as another parent component after the login. Okay. So you have to create one more component. So first component I'm creating is the login one. Generate component, login component. This is where you will just have your login page. Then another component will be layout. Either you say layout or home or header, whatever. This is your second parent component after the login. Okay. Here in this component, you will have your navbar, and there you will have router outlet. There it will load the activated route component. Okay. One more component I am creating, dashboard. Because after login, we need to navigate inside. Na? So this will be the component where after login, user will land. Again, we will have so many components, but for now, I'm just creating 3 components. Login, layout, and the dashboard. 3 components I have created. Okay. Let me run the project. NGS. Now, today we are going to implement the hardcode login. Tomorrow I will make it with the API. Okay. So in your app component, what do we have? Just router outlet will be there, nothing else. In your app component, this component will be used only to render your login component. Okay. Yeah. Now, if we access this, nothing is coming. Why nothing is coming?
Because you have removed everything.
Right? And we just created the component. We didn't create the route, right? So now we have to create the route. So first component, path. It takes some time to understand. Path : login component, login component. Fine. So this is your first component. If I had login,
No.
/ login component is working. Okay. But we need, I won't be manually typing the URL. Now we need default route, correct? By default, it should go over there. So default route, redirect to where I need to redirect, login route.
Okay.
And what else we need it over here? In default route, what else we need?
Path match.
Path match strategy, na? Full. Okay. Now, if I don't pass anything, still I will redirect to login. Okay. Now, after login, we are going to navigate to the dashboard. But dashboard, I said, see, login for login component, your parent component will be your app component. But once you do the login, then you will redirect to inside the application. So dashboard. So dashboard will load inside the layout component. So now here we need one more empty path. But your component will be layout component. Okay. And to this layout component, we will have children. To this layout component, we will have children. See, currently in our application, we are going to have two parent components. First, app component. App component will be responsible only to load the login
Login.
component. Once you log in, after that, you need to see that navbar and everything. User has to fill, na? Like, yes, I logged in, I came into the system. Okay. So that second component, second parent component will be layout component. In this component, you are going to have navbar. And whatever the component you are going to access after the login, those route will be children of this layout component. Okay. Now here you have to create your path for the dashboard. Component dashboard. Okay. So all the component after the login, whatever the component you are going to access after the login, those will be children of the layout component. This is your routing structure should be. Whenever you are working on an admin kind of application where only login page will be visible by default.
Why did you give the like empty path there? You can give it as
We can give a name also, but then again your routing will change like that. So admin / dashboard, this will be your routing. We can go with empty also, we can give name also, but if you give the name, then your routing will be, if you have to navigate to the dashboard, admin / dashboard, like that you will navigate.
okay. What happens if we give empty? Like, so it will
Directly
directly go,
dashboard, directly dashboard, you can access
but
that.
after the login, right? Like, even if we don't give any address
No,
in the URL,
there also you can access. Then we have to restrict. Like if the user is not logged in, we navigate him back to the login. That's the auth guard coming. Okay.
okay, no, like we have like two empty paths now, right?
Routes will
So which one?
execute. Routes will execute as their
Order.
sequence. Okay.
Okay.
So if the path
So
is empty,
first,
only this will execute. After that, if
okay.
we execute directly dashboard, it will execute the dashboard. This we are writing it over here, but this we can directly access. Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so this is your routing structure should be. After that, we need the login HTML code, right? So let's use ChatGPT. Let's ask it. Create a login page. Using Bootstrap. In my node module, I have already that, what do you say, Bootstrap and Phantasm. I just need to add the link of it in angular.json. Bootstrap is already installed in my reusable node module. Okay. The same in package.json entry also. Okay. Box CSS we need. सादं पाणी दे. Now my CSS will go over here. Shall I keep this CSS to global.css or login component?
Login component.
Right?
Login.
It was only limited with that component. If it's something reusable and that class is going to be used in another component also, then only we have to move it. Okay. Let's check if login page is coming. Why it is like this?
CSS is Bootstrap is not.
Okay. So see, we added angular.json. We did some changes over here. Whenever you do some changes, again, you need to run it back. Okay, again you need to compile. Then only this will take effect. Okay, now login page is coming properly. See, we have taken the help of ChatGPT, but this simple login page you should be able to design by yourself. At least try it for one time. Yeah, see the code of ChatGPT, how he has done it, and at least one time you should write it. Because you cannot sure, like in machine test, they might ask you to create a simple login page. So at least this, how do you center a div and how do you write it? This you should know. Okay, fine. Now, there are various ways how we can use how we can do the login. Can anyone tell me what are the various ways to do the login? What are the various ways to do login?
Various ways in the sense like
Hmm?
giving address and password.
That is one way. If we will call the API. Another way, by using that Google
Save.
Capture.
Google sign in. You might have seen some application
Okay,
where
yeah,
we
yeah,
don't register
right.
directly, we log in with our Google. Okay.
Yeah, single
Right.
sign.
Then if you are working on any application, if you are
OTP.
OTP is also there. Again, if you are working in a company, so many company-based applications are there which you can directly access without login also, because you are already in the
Yes.
network,
Yes.
right? So that is your Active Directory login. Okay. And very basic one, hard code login means you will manually check the user ID and the password in your code. And if the code is the user ID and password is same, then you will allow him to log in. That's what we are going to see. And that's what we call hard code login. Okay. Now, so first you have a login form, right? So we need a object template form we are going to use. So login object colon any. Now here we will say email empty password colon empty. Okay, we created our login object. We are going to use for template form, so we have to import forms model. Now this object we need to bind to our login form. Store bracket round bracket ng model is equal to login object dot. See here, now it is not suggesting anything because we have gone with any. Okay, similar over here. Password we need to bind. We should get one error. What error we should get? What is this error? If an ng model is used in a form tag. See, we have a form tag, right? If you are using ng model inside a form tag, name attribute becomes mandatory.
Email.
Remaining guys, you are not able to recollect this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Make sure whenever you bind ng model, check if ng form tag is there. Name attribute will be mandatory. Okay. Now we don't have it. Okay. Now, on click of login, always go for a button. Okay. Don't go for type submit. Sometimes submit will have some issues. So click on login. Okay. Let's create this function. Now, here we need to hard code check. So this dot login object dot email equal to let's say user has added admin@gmail.com, and then we need to match both the thing,
this dot
email ID and the password also.
Right.
So this dot login object dot password is equal to admin. Okay. So this is what hardcode login we are setting. If user has provided this email and this password, then only we will allow him to log in.
Okay.
Now once user has provided this, what we need to do?
Return true. Okay.
What you are going to do by returning?
Login
To next.
Navigate to different page, sir.
Yeah, navigate to dashboard.
Right? So if user has provided the correct credential, we have to make him inside the application. Na? So we have to navigate him back to the dashboard component. Okay. So from .ts we have to navigate. So what you need to do to navigate from .ts? We have to create instance of router service.
Yes.
From HTML, we can directly use router link to navigate, right? Same thing, if you have to navigate from .ts, you have to create instance of router service. Inject router. Okay. Now here this dot router dot navigate by URL. And where you have to navigate? Dashboard. Let's get the dashboard route name. This will go over here. And in else, what we need to do? What should we do in else?
Give the pop-up like
Yeah.
error like
Right? Error message we have to show, na? Wrong
credentials.
credentials. Okay, let's start a debugger and check it. Let me pass something else. Login. So email ID is not this, password is also not this. So it will go to the else block. Correct? Because this is not same, na? Wrong credential. Let's try the correct credential. admin@gmail.com. Password is okay. Now on click of login. Now in email, we got admin@gmail.com. Same we are comparing. Password also admin. So now my both condition will get true. See, this also got true. And this also got true. True and true, true. So it will go inside that and it will redirect to dashboard. See, we navigated to dashboard, but component is loading is layout component. Why? We successfully navigate to the dashboard also, but component loaded is dash layout one.
Parent of dashboard
Right?
is
Because
Correct.
if you check the routing structure, dashboard is a children of layout component. So if you navigate over here, so it will first load the layout component because that's the parent. Okay. Now in layout component, you should have your navbar. Let's quickly get our Bootstrap navbar.
navbar.
Okay, I'm going to use this one. Let me inspect. In layout component, you will have your navbar. Okay. Okay. In layout component, I will have my navbar. Let's save. Now you can see dashboard is there. We are able to see the navbar, but my dashboard component should load over here, correct? Dashboard component should load no,
Yes.
over here. So
Yes.
to load the activated route, what do we need?
Router outlet, sir.
Router outlet. So in layout component, after the navbar, you need router outlet over here. If you want to use router outlet, you need to import it. Okay. Then after navbar, let's say you have container fluid, and inside that you will have router outlet. Now you see it properly. Let's go back again. admin@gmail.com. Admin, once I log in, I'm getting the feeling like, yes, I'm able to log in. Understood? Understood
Yes.
or no?
Yes.
Right? And over here, instead of search, what you will have? Over here, what you will have?
Logout button.
Log
Close
off
button.
No,
Login,
off.
log out. Yeah, log out.
Log off. What do you need to do on click of log off?
Go to the like
Navigate
initial
to
page.
Navigate to
Login
login page again, right?
Login page.
Login page.
Yeah.
Log off. Okay, let's quickly create it. But again, we need router service, right? Let me quickly copy. Inject router. So this dot router dot navigate by URL. Where we have to navigate? Login. Okay. Now see, once I click on log up, again I'm going back to the login page. Understood the flow? This is what your login page implementation. Okay. Once again, I will repeat. Just understand properly. So whenever your application is like that, where by default only login page should be visible, and all the pages will be accessible after the login only. So you need one more parent folder. One more parent component will be there where you will have your navbar and everything. So that's the layout page we have created. Login component, layout component, and the dashboard, employee, department, all the components will be there. Okay. So we have created our layout component. Then our routing structure will be like this. Empty path, login component. For this login component, your app component will be your parent component. After the login, whatever the component you are going to access, that will be children of your layout component. Okay. This is your routing structure. Then in login component, you create some login UI. You will create some object. You will write your, here we have done the static hardcode login, but instead of that, this credential verification you will do with the API also. Once the API is success and the credentials are correct, you will navigate to the dashboard by using router service. Okay. And in the layout, you will have your navbar, and after that, you will have the router outlet. That's why once you do the login, you get to see the navbar and the whatever the activated component is there, na, that gets loaded over here. Understood? This is all you need to do the login. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now parallelly start this project as well. Whatever I'm doing, you also do the same thing every day. So you also will complete the project.
So
I
please
would
go to the dashboard. In dashboard, you also add
dashboard, we didn't do anything. It's empty. Right?
only in login and layout.
Only login component and the layout component we have written the code. Okay. Most of the machine test will be with the hardcode login. They will simply ask you to implement the login page. Sometimes they will provide the API for the login, or they will just say you that do the hardcode login, static login. So you will write like this. Okay. They just want to check like if you understand the login concept or not. So this is what everything you need to do.
What happens if you don't use like child components like routing under the routes?
You can manage, but again that now let's say you don't have a structure like this now. Then where you will keep your navbar? App component, right? But if user
Right.
is not logged in, then manually you need to write ngif and hide that navbar,
Okay.
right? So that's why we opt this structure. Okay. Clear, everyone? Having any doubts?
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you show me the log of function?
Log off. We just navigated back him to the login page. This is just a static login, but in case of actual application, once we integrate the API, na, we have to store the local storage data also, right? Again, code will increase. It's just a basic code. Because once we integrate the API, from API, you will get the user object that you will store it somewhere, right? So that also you need to clear once you do the log off.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, now we have inject router in this, like
Hmm.
router equals to.
All right. Either you did do this or in the constructor you will inject. Both of the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. Now one more thing I'm explaining. Okay. Now in login component, when we created object, this login object, what's the data type we have given? Any. Okay. Now when you just see it properly. Okay. In our login object, we have created object and we have provided the data type any. So when you try to access that into your HTML, if I write dot, it is not suggesting anything, right? It should suggest email and the password because that's the two things we have in our object, correct?
Yes, sir.
So instead of using any, we have to create a class for it. So here I'm creating a class login model. How many parameter we have? Email
Two parameters.
colon. What will be data type? String.
String.
Okay. Then your password colon string.
Is empty.
Yeah. Okay. So we created a small class outside this class. See, this class got completed over here. Outside that I have created class login model. Inside that I have created two variable, email and the password. Since it's a class, so I can have access to the constructor. Currently, what they are saying, they are saying like you have not initialized them. So I can have access to the constructor, and in constructor, I will initialize this dot email with empty. This dot password is equal to empty. Okay. So I have created a class. Now, instead of going with any, you can provide the data type like this. And now instead of initializing over here like this, you can initialize new by you have to initialize this model, this class like this. Okay. So instead of giving any, I have provided a proper data type saying in my login object, these are the fields I'm going to have. Now see over here. It is suggesting properly.
Yes.
Yes.
So
So
when
can
it,
you use interface also?
yeah, we can use interface also. I just wanted to explain this. Like instead of if you go with any, you don't get IntelliSense because any can have anything, na? Any is a dynamic data type. So that's why it won't worry like what things it has. You have to manually type it. But when you strongly data type, like this variable is going to hold the properties of this model, means email and the password. So you get IntelliSense over here. Understood? Clear? So this is your class. Again, we are going to see, but I wanted to explain this just we have created. Okay. Clear all?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Today in the evening now we are going to have a session on reactive form. Some advanced thing we have to discuss. So 9 p.m. is okay. Or 8 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Cannot join in the evening.
8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or 7.
Yes.
No.
8 p.m.
At all not
So
possible,
7.
Shreya?
Not possible, sir. Like in our morning time, cannot join.
Any time in evening.
In the evening,
Yeah.
our evening, like in the same
Your
time is
morning.
no, sir.
Why? At least half hour.
Half hour is
Try for half hour at least because see,
tomorrow.
once
Okay.
we
8
have so many
8 a.m.
things. Hmm?
8 a.m. our time. It
What
means
will be
like
our
very
time?
early, like 6:30.
No, 6:30 will be very early.
Sir, 8 p.m.
7.
Sir,
Okay.
7
Tomorrow
p.m.
is possible for you, Shrija?
Sorry?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow is fine.
Okay, let's do it tomorrow then. Okay.
Okay.
Because we need at least hour because in reactive form we have so many things, small.
Tomorrow is fine.
Fine. Instead of today, now let's make it tomorrow. Okay, fine then.
Yeah.
Hello?
Thank you.
Yeah.
हॅलो सर हॅलो
या रंजना.
मी कालची बॅच अटेंड नाही करू शकली सर, त्याची रेकॉर्डिंग मिळेल का
इव्हिनिंगची
कालची?
का
नाही मॉर्निंगची.
मॉर्निंगची ना? ठीक आहे, पाठवतो.
हा आणि फ्रायडे नाईटची पण नाही केली होती मी बॅच. आय थिंक फ्रायडे नाईटला झाली होती ना 9 वाजता.
नाईटला ठीक आहे, बघतो मी, पाठवतो.
हा चालेल. थँक्यू.
ओके, लेट्स कनेक्ट टुमॉरो मॉर्निंग.